right, our next lesson this week is maintaining peak performance. Here we go. How do you maintain your peak performance? And what does that mean for you? What are you performing at? Could be a number of different things. Yeah, what else? And how do you stay at your best? Good question. Let's see if we answer that in this lesson. Here we go. You landed on Mars. Now what? Take a moment to imagine that you just landed on the surface of Mars. You exit your spacecraft and step onto Martian soil, the first human in history to ever do so. You look around you. What would you see? How do you feel? Most importantly, what would you do first? Ooh, interesting. Would you construct a living base unit? Would you collect soil samples to search for traces of life? Would you start planting potatoes? Would you reestablish a line of communication with mission control? Would you begin extracting water from the Martian surface, or would you check equipment or devices for any damages? What do you think is going to be the best thing to do first? Prioritize. All these things are probably good things to do eventually. Probably want to, I don't know, reestablish a line of communication first, or check the equipment, make sure nothing else fails, and then reestablish the line of communication. Let's see. All right, cool. Yeah, we have to check our machinery. So we're on, okay, so despite what you may think, getting to Mars is only half of your mission. When NASA sends a crew to Mars, they expect to get a lot done. Look at the descriptions below to learn about the tasks your crew will have to complete once they land. Okay, so we have construction. Because we'll have to wait on Mars for 1.5 years before the planet realigns with Earth, you'll have to start setting up a base. This means installing solar panels, planting food, and creating a shelter. Maintenance. Your crew will ride in on the same machine that they will be using to leave the red planet. As such, there will be a significant portion of time spent to maintain the crew's technology and spacecraft. Research. One of the key reasons NASA will send a crew to Mars is to find out more about the planet's past. Did it ever host life? Were there oceans of water on Mars? To answer these questions, crews will have to assemble and drive vehicles across Mars to collect samples and evidence. All right, so going to Mars isn't sugar and rainbows, is it? It can be a lot of work, and that can take a toll on the bodies of astronauts. How so? Let's find out. All right, here we go, the ROS report. Hold on just a second. Before you can begin setting up your base, and exploring the surface of Mars for traces of life, you might run into one of these significant issues. Take a look at the following ROS report, and ROS again stood for risk of, well, hopefully they tell us because I cannot find it even on the internet what it stands for. But I think it's basically just a report on how things are going. All right, evidence from mission control, investigation into weakness, key issues, a decrease in strength. The target system is the muscular system. Cause of concern, astronauts need to be in the peak physical condition to construct a base on Mars, carry out research, and keep oneself alive. A weakening astronaut may not be able to properly coordinate an emergency evacuation and can jeopardize the mission and the crew's safety. Here we have a case study. Harry Robinson. I train pretty regularly when I'm on Earth. I love to run, lift weights, and swim. I guess it's just hard for me to sit still. After my 6-month rotation on the ISS, I remember being a little surprised at how my post-flight muscle strength tests went. I knew I wouldn't be as strong, but I didn't think the change would be so significant. And then here's Megan Lee. You may not know this, but we work hard on the space station. When we're out in space, we lift, cycle, and run, exercising close to 2 hours each day. I know my flight surgeon was very particular about it, but I was more worried of not being strong or coordinated enough to conduct an emergency egress in case our mission took a turn for the worst. Always got to be prepared here. All right, so here's some cool data from the laboratory. Awesome. Here we have changes in muscle volume. Quads, quadriceps, anterior calf, soleus, that is part of your calf muscle. Anyone know the other half is called the gastrocnemius, one of my favorite muscles. Here we have the hamstrings and your back. There's lots of muscles there. They just put it into one. There's actually 4 muscles in the quads, quadriceps. That's why quad means 4. Okay, so here we have short. We have the percent volume change. It's in the negatives. So we can kind of scan through this. Which one of these had the most decrease over the short term? That would be the back. And then over the long term, seems like soleus and also the back. Okay, so that's cool to note. Then we have changes to the skeletal muscle. The weight, leg strength, leg volume, weight and volume percent lost, day 56. So again, negative, so we're losing weight and volume in weight, leg strength, and volume. So that's different metrics you can use to measure how much is being lost. Here we go. And then lean tissue mass. Coyote's wanting to teach you as well. Lean tissue mass. So here we have MER. I'm not sure what that is, but maybe that's the Mars mission rover. ISS means International Space Station. So seems like more so lost more in the legs. Percent change from pre-exposure. Okay, cool to look at that data. Let's see what we have to do next. All right, and we have a question to answer here. Using the evidence in this report, what do you observe happening to astronauts during spaceflight? Looks like a decrease in muscle loss, an increase in muscle loss, a decrease in size, and a decrease in strength. All right. So number 2, why might muscle loss be a problem for the success of your mission? So remember, you have to do all that construction, so that's probably going to be hard. You have probably pretty tight routine, or route, ship route. Yeah, difficulty traveling across Mars to collect samples. Yeah, all those things, coordinating movement, bracing, totally. Cannot lose our ability to move. We need to move around in space. Without full muscle function, astronauts' ability to maintain their ship, research, or set up a base can be hindered. All right, so it can become a catastrophe. So what are we doing about it? Let's find a way to counteract this loss in muscle. Okay, starting with the basics. So before we can counteract it, we'll have to understand how they function. To answer this question, let's take a look at your life for a moment. Let's say we were just come back from school or home on a long day of work. You probably used your muscles throughout the day, walking across campus, running errands, or whatever else was thrown in your way. Now you're ready to kick it and relax. Which of the following you're likely to be doing once you get home? Eating pizza, watching the sunset in your nice suit, nice little outfit in a loungy chair, watching TV, or maybe she's just holding the remote and she's about to pick up her book. I don't know. Phone, games, or socializing, or running. How many people are on a team? This is actually what I do after. And then maybe you're not even getting to walk across campus because we're on online school. I will send out, I think this is fascinating, so I'll send out a survey, and we'll kind of keep track of how our class is doing. And we'll need that for Friday when we actually get into our own groups and we talk about this. All right, we got another question. Do you think relaxing in this way? They have very obvious questions here. Okay. All right, so we have three different types of muscles. Very cool. How is that possible? All right, so let's see here. Despite all the differences, all types of muscles work in a similar way. So let's watch a video and then match it to the type of muscle. Yeah, so that looks like the heart. It's actually its own type of muscle, the cardiac muscle, specialized to contract to send blood throughout the body. Here we go. Whoa, that's pretty wild. What does that look like? Maybe your food molecule moving down the stomach? Or you're been post-processed food and you're moving out the body? That's a smooth muscle. Moves solid and fluids down by contracting in this thing called peristalsis, which is pretty fun. All right, and this last one here, probably what you guys all think about when you think of muscles. The skeletal muscle. They voluntarily control and pull muscles to allow for movement. So we're actively doing that as you go along. Okay, so I'm going to take notes on this lesson, so that's a cool thing to jot down. All right, and so there's so let's see here. Skeletal muscles play a key role for both astronauts and civilians. Like other types of muscles, skeleton muscles contract or get shorter to carry out their functions. However, skeletal muscles are the only type of you can voluntarily control. The 3 actions below are functions of the muscular system. Match the following actions to the appropriate function of the skeletal muscle. All right, so yeah, they can do 3 different types of things: heat production, movement, or posture. I'm gonna write those down: heat production, movement, or posture. Go ahead and try to place those in the appropriate category. So heat production, so you pick up a glass of water, that seems like a movement. Spike a volleyball, that's a movement. Stand in line in theater, you have to stand, that's posture. You're shivering on a cold day. Oh, and then downward dog, good old-fashioned posture position. We can go through that if we want to do some yoga in class this Friday. That'd be fun. Okay. Here we go. So, how do skeletal muscles work? One key function of skeletal muscles is helping you move. But how do they work? Try this out. If your hand is on a keyboard or on your side, grab an item and bring it towards your face with the palm towards your face. You've just used 2 different muscles to pull this off. One contracts while the other relaxes. Okay, can you think about which one this is? So your bicep is contracting and your tricep is relaxing. So let's take a look at this soccer player as he kicks the ball across the field. Then we'll label the diagram to explain how this happens. Okay, so 1, we have your quadriceps, is that contracting would mean getting smaller. So if you kick up, that's contracting. Your hamstring then is the opposite muscle, it's relaxing. And then, okay, oh wait, let's be specific here. This is pointing to the number 3 is the hamstring. So that's relaxing. Number 2 is the origin, that's the closest to your body, and then the insertion is where it connects. So because it needs to connect over the patella in order to pull at that lower leg, or your tibia and fibula. So I'm going to go ahead and write down origin and insertion as well. Okay, so what actually happens when you flex your muscles? So far, you've seen how skeletal muscles pull on bone to allow for movement and posture. The basic mechanics don't change in microgravity. So why do muscles lose strength and mass in space? To find out, we'll need to go deeper. We'll need to understand the basics of design of muscle tissue and allow for contractions to occur. Let's dive in and see what's going on. All right, I would suggest you draw this picture, one, because it's super fun. And what does this remind you of? If you have trichophobia, I think the fear of holes, I don't think you're going to like seeing this very much. But here we go. Our skeletal muscles are attached to bone via a tendon. Skeletal muscle tissue is made up of fascicles, which are bundles of muscle cells. Each fascicle is made up of multiple muscle cells called muscle fibers. Okay, and here we are in our diagram. I just drew real quick. Bone, tendon. Notice my color scheme if you guys are following along. Maybe for muscle fiber, another word for that is muscle, just a muscle cell. So you can go ahead and I'm using 2 different color pens. One is for the vocab word, and then the other is to define out what it means. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. If you're taking notes along with us, here we go. All right. Let's get to it. The power of many. Numerous fibers work together to help your muscles contract. When you see, what you're seeing happen is the muscle cell is one strand of protein pulling on another protein fiber. So this kind of gets at when people are like, you need to eat protein for your muscles. It's because we have proteins pulling on proteins in our muscles. As one pulls on the other, they squeeze the muscle cell. This action reduces the length of a muscle cell, causing it to contract. Though these thin protein fibers are microscopic, with thousands working together, they are what help your muscles contract, pull on bone, and move your body around. Oh yeah, so here, this is super cool. Very detailed. We're inside a cell. We're at a protein level. This is a macromolecule. Those are different, what we call filaments or fibers, actin and myosin, pulling on each other. I think of it like this. If I have both my hands here and I have this one here, it's pulling. Notice what happens if you grab on and pull. It gets closer and closer together. So let's take a look at how muscle fibers cause contraction. Muscle fibers contain special units that help cells contract. These units, like many shown below, are made up of many thin and thick fibers, like we can see here. So there's one actin and one myosin. I'm going to draw this out in my notes as best as possible. So I'm going to pause it there so I can draw out. Well, let's see. Let's go through this first and then we'll take notes. All right, inside a muscle cell. So here's the myosin in the middle, kind of, it's like these parts up here. And then the actin. Notice how it has these little globby things. That's going to attach. They're like Velcro almost. And then pull themselves together. All right, so true and false. Actin and myosin are both proteins that make up two types of fiber. Filaments, yes. Oops, yes. Myosin is the protein that makes up the thin filament. Myosin is thicker, so I don't think that's true. They didn't really give you that much information on that. Contraction elongates the muscle cell. Nope, contraction actually shortens the muscle cell. And it does this by moving those Z discs that we see on the end here closer together. All right, and just want to keep you up to date. So here's pretty easy sliding filament model. You got your Z discs, your actin, and your myosin. Myosin pulls them together to move those Z discs closer. So maybe I even draw in an arrow that says contraction, and then I show them moving together. Cool. Kind of like so. Contraction. All right, so what's the problem? In space, microgravity can affect the structure of muscle fibers. Take a look at the muscle fibers in an astronaut before and after a 17-day space flight. What difference do you notice? So let's take a look. Pre-space, so everything looks pretty in line. After space, our actin filaments are actin funny. I made that joke, not Smart Sparrow. I claim it. Anyway, I feel like that's a joke Smart Sparrow would make. But here we go. What differences do you notice after 17 days in space? Are there fewer? Yeah, I guess there's fewer. Notice how these are like, there's two fibers kind of together. And now here there's like only one. So there are actually less actin fibers. What do you predict might occur as a result of fewer protein fibers? Probably the muscle's going to get smaller because it's made up of those fibers, and it's not going to be as strong. All right, why do the fibers in muscles decrease in space? Losing muscle fibers in such as actin may explain the decrease in muscle mass and strength we see in astronauts. To design a countermeasure against this, you'll need to explore why something like this occurs. To get started, let's compare the environments of these two astronauts. Let's match the descriptions. Okay, so we have Earth versus space. Weightless in space, yeah, microgravity. Uses lower body to stay upright. On Earth we do, that's why our legs are so strong. But in space they're floating. On Earth we have gravity to weigh us down. And in space then we don't use as many muscles to maintain that posture. So what do we think could be causing this? Probably a lack of loading on the body. A lack of loading leads to something called atrophy. They're going to talk about that here. To answer this question, think about your own life. If you've ever trained for athletic event or took part in any physical activity for a long time, you may notice your body getting used to the stress you've put on it. Can you think of a time when that's been true? I'll put that in the survey as well. I want you guys to reflect on that. The task may get easier and your muscles larger. Now think about what happens once you stop. After a couple weeks, which of the following best describes how your body changes? Muscle hypertrophy, hyper meaning over, increase in muscle mass, increase in muscle size, increase in the strength of contraction, or atrophy. Well, okay, so when you stop working out, atrophy is going to happen. Decrease in muscle mass, muscle size, and strength. I'm guessing, though, after a couple weeks, well, it's a good research question. What's the length of time? What's the effective time on muscle atrophy? Age, amount, how much do you have to be inactive for your muscles to start decreasing? But here you can see here a normal bicep muscle and then an atrophied bicep muscle. Cool. All right, so how does loading affect muscle mass? In microgravity, astronauts' bodies don't experience as much load as on Earth. Just as on Earth, when you stop training or using certain muscles, you would lose muscle mass. This is because the rate at which protein fibers, actin and myosin, are degraded or broken down is much faster than they are created. Yeah, so this kind of gets at you're not gonna lose it as fast, right? Actually, I'm not sure about this claim, but I want to learn more about that. Let's just go with it for now. So you're going to lose muscle mass. That's called atrophy. That occurs when the rate of protein synthesis equals degradation. Nope. Is it when protein synthesis is greater than degradation? No. If protein degradation is greater than synthesis, that's when you're going to have a negative effect here. And that's going to look like that. Smaller one, bigger. And then here protein synthesis is greater. Hypertrophy. Hyper meaning above. Cool. The bigger picture. On which muscle groups does spaceflight have the greatest effect? The relative increase in protein is more common in some muscles than others. As a result, muscle loss in astronauts doesn't occur evenly across the body. All right, and we saw that when we first looked at this graph. And taking a look here, lean tissue mass, and here we have the legs. I'm bummed they don't use the gastrocnemius, because that's one of my favorite muscle terms. But we're just going to go with that. We can see here that the legs lose muscle a lot faster than any other part of the body. Sometimes as much as 8%, that's wild. Why do you think this happens? Based on your own experiences and the evidence shown to the right, why do you think astronauts would lose most lean muscle mass in their lower body and legs while in space? So think about what we're missing out on here. Being in space, you don't need to hold yourself up. So is it that postural muscles in the legs do more work than other muscles? Maybe. Muscles in the leg do more work than muscles in the upper body, generally as well. Postural muscles experience far less loading in space than on Earth. Yep. And then astronauts do not lose their legs or they float in space, and they do not on Earth. I mean, that's true too. So let's see. Yeah, that doesn't explain why. I mean, why? That's the best reason why. Yeah, postural muscles experience far less loading in space than on Earth. Think about standing in an upright position. All right, so in summary, what is happening to muscles in microgravity? Based on your own experiences and the evidence, why do you think astronauts would lose most lean muscle mass in their lower body and legs while in space? So here we have microgravity reducing the load. Oh, this is a microscope image of the muscles, and you see the actin and myosin here. That thin one is actin, and you can see there's less. So the rate of protein degradation is greater than synthesis, leading to hypertrophy. Oh my gosh, and this is such a cool image of your pelvis and all the ways that the muscles integrate all the way through there. So, whew, feel that, like the connection between your brain and your body when you look at that image. Can you imagine all those muscles down? Think about like what these ones would do. I think those are your erectors, come all the way through. Or your psoas. That's your psoas, coming all the way through like that. Anyway, we could geek out about muscles, but let's get to this. Muscle size and volume decreases, especially in the postural muscles of the lower body. All those are keeping you upright. So how should we counter it? Countermeasures. You might give the astronauts more tasks around the ship. Yeah. Have astronauts complete more stretching, such as yoga for their lower body. You could have them eat more calories. Have them have more protein, so you can add more, maybe the calories doesn't quite so matter probably, but more protein. Have them definitely weightlift and train. That's going to be a huge one. And then starting with a higher mass for sure would allow you to keep that mass on. So if you're more fit to begin with. I don't know if they're going to say this one's right or not. Obviously, stretching and yoga is good to align your muscles, but it won't necessarily increase your muscle mass. Unless you're doing a lot of Ashtanga, which is very intensive. I don't think they're going to like that, though. Okay, this wasn't specific enough. And yeah, like I was just saying. All right, and that doesn't counteract. Okay, so they're looking more specifically for what to do in space. I think that's the best options there. All right, countermeasures. Let's examine two options. We got exercise routine and diet. Let's do exercise. Oh, never mind. Select a diet. Okay, we gotta read. Here we go. Let's go and look at the protein. Fibers in the muscle cells that allow them contract are made of protein. So it's a macronutrient or nutrient your body needs in significant amounts versus micronutrients being like calcium and vitamin D and B vitamins, A vitamins. Those are all micronutrients, iron. Macronutrients are like your macromolecules, lipids, fats, proteins, carbohydrates. Proteins then are a building block of muscle fibers used to maintain muscle cells and maybe needs an enlarged supply. The main source of energy is probably carbohydrates. So, which of these do you eat regularly? I do not eat meat so much all the time. Not saying that you can't ever eat meat, but just trying to decrease it more for the environment than anything else. So nuts is what I would say. Lentils, you guys. Lentils are amazing. They have lots of protein. How much protein do you actually need? This is what one of my track athletes, Mia, my star girl hurdler, has talked about. She's kind of questioning, like, how much do you actually need? And when I was powerlifting, they said 1 gram per pound of body fat. But I looked it up and we're about to learn what is actually recommended. The amount of protein one should consume differs based on your goals. However, a general baseline amount of protein to prevent deficiency is shown. And yeah, that's totally true with personal goals. When I was doing a lot of weightlifting, I was drinking a lot of protein powders and things like that to try to get more and more protein. Protein can make up 20% of an astronaut's diet. Using a 2,000 calorie diet, for example, that means astronauts would have to consume 400 calories worth of protein. Given that 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, to achieve 400 calories from protein, astronauts would have to consume 100 grams of protein. I'm going to write that down in my notes because that's pretty cool. Okay, so teenage boys, looks like you're at 52, girls 46. Based on this value, how would you adjust the diet of Alexis? All right, so let's look at our protein. We got 30 grams, 20 grams, so we're at 50, 35, we're at 85. So we need to increase the amount of protein to get to 100. All right. So eating a good diet is relatively easy. But now the hard, heavy lifting. So, which exercise would be most beneficial? Yeah, squats. Remember, because we're mainly trying to target those leg muscles that has the most decrease. All these other things are great though for a well-rounded exercise routine. All right, so here we are. There's an image of someone doing that. Astronauts exercise for about 2 hours a day. That's amazing. 1 hour is just weight training or resistance. This is using a ARED or Advanced Resistance Exercise Device. It's pretty cool. Take a look at the astronauts' exercise plan. Which change would you recommend based on what you know about resistance training? So I would make sure we need at least an hour a day. And it looks like we have pretty good. Maybe Wednesday's a lighter day. Saturday and Sunday are a little bit lighter. I wonder what the call is here. Probably keep it as it is or increase it. Let's see what they think. One day of the week is off, so Wednesday's off. So maybe we can keep that as that is. Looks like a pretty good routine. All right, so how confident are you in being able to teach someone about the muscles? Go home and teach someone at dinner tonight as you're eating protein. Why they're doing that to build up the actin and myosin filaments in order to contract your cells so they don't atrophy if you don't have to use them. And then go work out. Go to the weight room. Go pick up a weight. Go move around something heavy. Do as the fitters do and go move a tire and push it around. Go dig a hole, move some rocks. So many ways if you don't have access to a gym or if you don't want to go because of COVID. Yeah, doing some squats just with your body weight is pretty cool too. Cool. So, yeah, the final thing they want you to do here is develop a countermeasure. So write out what you would change and finish your response here. Summarize kind of your notes. And now it's our turn. So now that we know all that, we can go in and we can make sure that everybody has 100 grams of protein. So I'm going to click here, my mission. I got my spacecraft, I got my crew, and then from my crew I need to go through each of my nutrition things and take a look here for protein. That's the third one down, protein, 98 grams. So I'm pretty close with Henna. Let's see how Alexi is. I maybe need to increase my protein for Alexi. Rashida, almost there. And Jaron, I haven't done yet. But, so yeah, just select different meals so that you can get up to that bit. All right, and then you should be done with the lesson. That's all it is. So I'll send out that form, curious what your exercise routine is, keeping track of the protein. So now you can take a survey on meat, a survey on sugar, a survey on exercise and protein. And we'll get to know our crew members and different people in our classmates on Friday. I'm going to put you in different teams, and we're going to actually simulate going to Mars. Watch that video about Chris Hadfield and what happens when he went blind in space, because I do want you to be as prepared as possible, and that is a great way to put you in the command seat inside of your space suit. Other announcements, really excited for some of the guest speakers we have. This Friday, Jesse about solar. It's kind of from last unit, but it'll be really cool. Next week, we have someone coming in who worked at NASA. She's my friend Julia. She's amazing human being. I've done lots of adventures with her, canoeing and hiking mountains and road trips across the country. But nonetheless, she worked at NASA as an intern and actually helped design their spacesuits. And now she has been just recently featured on the cover of Time magazine because she designed a face mask that is reusable. So she went to school for design, apparel design, and she was really into drawing. So very much goes to show like how a crossover between the right brain and the left brain can lead to some amazing work, right? NASA's like left brain science and then drawing and creativity and all that. She'll talk way more about that, but Q&As, go ahead and fill out the form to write your questions to go to that discussion. And then two more. Oh my God, so cool. So then the next one is Charlotte. She is from the USGS and she studied the geology of Mars. So that'll be really cool. That's the next week. And the following week, we'll have someone on who works as an electric engineer in aeronautics. So how the different buttons work. She basically figures that out. And she's really excited to talk to you all because she loves to inspire kids to go into STEM. I just met her climbing this weekend, so that's really cool. But anyway, I hope you guys join us for those discussions and then join us on Friday. And good luck with it all. Hopefully I get this program up and running. Otherwise, I'll make an alternative lesson that you can complete. And I'll link that in the assignment. All right, see you guys on Friday. Can't wait. Happy Monday. Toodaloo.